like that to start commuting to work. Then you started to really pay attention. And then because you had battery powered vehicles, now it's something that you can really charge at night. And it makes sense to charge at night anyway.
Yeah, and also now we have invested in, timers on the sockets that we use to charge the moped and the e-scooter, and we have like a room at home now with all the stuff. Yeah, and the timer, and it's a smart timer, so we can optimize that as well to make sure that we charge at the right time of night. That's not using AI either. It's cooler to do it.
Sorry.
It's cooler to do it the way that Tibber and Greenly, of course, they do it in terms of really optimizing towards the spot price. Right now, I can see that between midnight and 2 a.m., that is generally when we should. But so it's not that clever, but I'm doing it during nighttime at least.
Yeah, but so the distinction is here that you have a general idea of when it's usually cheaper, and then you put a timer in and you get it done.
Yeah.
Or you have actually energy utility, or you have service providers who basically optimize algorithmically to give you energy when it's as the most best price for you.
So that is what I should have done. I've done the easy solution for this year. But I mean, this is what Tibber is actually very clever in this way, because they have their own kind of web shop, right? Where with different smart accessories. And if you have if you have ground source heating, maybe in your villa, then if it's new enough, ours is not, unfortunately, but if it's a new ground source, then you can actually buy this plug that you can connect that, and that will make a big difference as well. And then Tibber will run it all for you. So you can add on, lots of new type of devices. I've just seen this. It's a plug that you screw onto the taps, the water taps, because what's most expensive in your home to charge is to heat up the water. So your showers are, I think that it was Sats who had some sort of a campaign going. You just have to shower once a week in the gym, and that will pay for your subscription. I'm not sure if that is true or not, but showers are going to be expensive, and washing your hands are going to be expensive. So this plug would then, you screw it onto the tap, and it will make you consume a lot less water when you wash your hands. Of course, you will get a lot less pressure as well. But usually we don't need to spend like 300 liters of water to wash our hands. So that's the kind of the easy things that you can also do to save money when it gets colder.
Cool. I think we'll get more into how to save energy, etc. shortly. But you also bought an e-scooter, right?
I did.
And you enjoy that?
I do. I'm the moped girl, right? So I'm usually the one who takes the dog to work as well. So I feel more safe on the moped, even though it's very fast that as well.
I bought an e-scooter once as well for a couple of months ago, and I was going to take it from the subway to work, and I had it for 2 full days before it got stolen. Even though I had like a really really thick like chain kind of base lock and additional locks on it. It was stolen very quickly. I hope you have some proper locks on your, or can...
Yeah, so that was actually a problem because, my husband, he's got the e-scooter, right? And they are, they are sought out for. They kind of go, I spoke to the guys and I said, I'm going to this after work event. Can I just put this scooter outside? And he goes, I would not do that. Yeah. If someone who wants it sees it, they will go and get their van and just lift the whole thing in. And I go, really? So then I bought the best lock he had, but then he said, you have to try and get it in. Yeah. And I said, into the restaurant. And I was going to this wine bar. It was tiny and it had like stairs up and everything. And this thing weighs like 50 kilos. So I came and I said, is there anywhere I can store this here? And it's quite big. And they were looking at me going, really? But then they were so nice. They let me have it in the basement. So they carried it down for me and everything. They were super nice. But that is the thing though. You cannot have them on the street. No. You cannot. So my moped is, of course, that's got like a key to it and stuff. It's
more secure.
Yeah. So
a moped is a little bit harder to steal in this way, a little bit.
I believe so.
But you also bought a Tesla Model S, right? Or what was it?
Yes. Gosh, I'm so electrified. Yes, we did a few years ago actually, and I think it's 2018 model. And we had lots of conversations around, what brand to go for and that sort of thing. We wanted to go EV. We knew that. And we wanted
2018, there wasn't that many options.
No. And also, but we bought it in 2020, actually, I think. So we bought a used one. But I said that, either you buy a car with someone who doesn't know batteries as well, or you buy a Tesla where the battery is as good as it could be, but the car might fall apart. So, and then we had the big discussion, but we ended up in the battery must be, and the range is the most important for us. We go skiing and, we have the whole family, 5 people in the car and that sort of thing. We have to be able to trust the battery and the battery capacity. So we ended up with a Tesla Model S. And
how do you find it? Do you like it?
I love it, but we had some really horrible charging experiences in the beginning.
How long does it take to charge the battery in your case? Going from 0 to more or less full 100%.
Oh man, you never do that though.
You don't do that. You do 10 to 80.
Yeah, or even I do 20 to 75, kind of always. But we had this horrible. When you travel a long way, then of course you do. So we were going up to I think it was Björnrike. So then the last charging station, you check where the Tesla superchargers are, and the last one was in Sveg, and that was a very modern one as well. So I asked Tesla on the web, like, where should I charge when I planned my route? This was like a week before we left, and it told me Gävle and then Sveg, and then of course we were fully packed and 5 people in the car. It did go down quite a lot quicker when we started driving, but we stayed a little bit longer in Gävle, and then it was like to Sveg. And to Sveg, you saw it does say you're going to have 11% when you arrive, but it started out being 25%, and then it got down to 15, and then it got down to 11, and I get a little bit worried because you're in the middle of nowhere, right? It's like woods and really dark, and it was minus 15 or whatever, and 3 kids in the back, and I go, are we going to get there or not? In the end, we had 5% left on the battery when we arrived in Sveg, and then we were going to charge, and there was the wrong socket. The plug did not fit in the car, and I go, what's going on here? So then, of course, I called Tesla, the support, and he's like, have you got a Type 2? No, that got removed 2 months ago from this. We only have the new CCS charging. And I go, are you kidding me? I mean, what am I going to do? So that ended up being a real nightmare.
But you can plug it into the normal socket, right? Or
yeah, but we were in Sveg and we were going to Björnrike. We were just going to charge for the last kind of 40 minutes of our journey. And charging from a real socket when it was also minus 15.
That will take a long time, by the way.
Yeah, just to get enough is like the whole night. So in the end, we found like this odd charger, super slow. It was like pretty.
Yeah, so you had to drive around.
Yeah, Tesla had to pay for a hotel and.
So they did that? Or?
Oh yeah, I wasn't nice.
And is that then? Have you then upgraded the car to have a CCS?
Yes, we have since then. But the problem they had on the website, they still had a Type 2. So of course, because when you plan on the website, you fill in what model you have, and
it should filter it out.
Yes, absolutely. So I made that very clear that you need to update the website. And he's like, yeah, but in the car, I wouldn't have told you. And I go, but I don't plan my journey in the car. I plan where I'm going to charge when I sit at the dinner table the night before, and I check on the web where I should charge. You don't do that when you sit in the car. Okay. Yeah, no, I get that. So, I mean, in the end, they were very helpful. And then we came to this hotel where we got the last room, where it wasn't enough beds or anything. It was we slept many times that night. And then, another Tesla family. We had one last night.
That's great. Elin, so much welcome and great to have you on the show here finally. I think we've been trying to make time to get you on earlier seasons, but now you're here, Elin Allison. So it's super cool that you could join us.
Thank you very much.
Today. And we met a couple of times. I think you have met us all in different occasions on Data Innovation Summit. But for the ones who hasn't met Elin, maybe we can start with the simple question, or maybe the hard question. Who is Elin?
That should be simple. I hope. I'm a kind of a quite driven lady. I guess I'm a lady now. Past 40 a few years ago. Loving new innovations and way too techie, way too much of a gadget freak to be a girl, clearly.
Don't say that.
No, I'm the first to not say that, really. Have had lots of diversity panels and that sort of thing. Just to, I've always worked in tech, within tech. I've got background from telco. I launched 3 in Sweden and Denmark and in Scandinavia. Oh my gosh, 2003. Maybe I 3 you. I see you. I feel you. I 3 you. I think was our campaign. It was really odd. No one knew what it was before it got launched.
And you mean Telia, the telecom company, then?
Yes, that was my start. And then
that have all the ads saying "trevligt" nowadays.
Nowadays
right?
it's trevligt.
Nowadays it's trevligt. Yeah, I kind of like that. It's kind of sweet. No, and I guess that was 3 was one of those telcos that really an up and coming. Very much challenging the big Telia.
What do you think about that name, by the way? I mean, speaking about the 3G that was big at that time, and then they have a name called Tre, and the 3G is so out of date these days. It's like a very strange name.
I must agree with you, actually. And this, the logo from the beginning was like a 3 with like a fire inside, because it was like that we were hot inside. Now, I think they could have been a little bit more forward thinking. Yeah. I mean, after 2G comes 3G, what do you think comes next? So maybe not the best company name thinking back on it. But a great, and it was really odd that I ended up, well, it wasn't odd for me, but I got a degree from Uppsala before that, Uppsala University, where I studied chemical engineering, specializing in pharmaceuticals, which is not at all kind of my interest, to be honest. But what do you know when you're 18, right? Yes. I mean, I said that Master of Science is probably good because it's a good base to stand on. My dad was also Master of Science. I was like, yeah, this is going to work out fine. But I was a little bit more into physics and mathematics, actually, but there was only boys going to those. So I thought, I want to go somewhere where I have, some other girls and to have some fun, when you go to uni. So that's why I chose chemical engineering, which proves that it was correct in terms of I do have a Master of Science and I have a kind of broad technological base to stand on, but I have not worked in pharmaceuticals. I did a computer simulation of a spherical protein as my essay in the end, which actually got published. It's really cool to read it now because I don't understand a thing, but
Are you impressed by AlphaFold and the DeepMind kind of invention to do protein folding and everything? Have you been looking into that? Or?
I mean, it's astonishing.
Yeah.
I mean, what we can do and what we can simulate now, what we can do with data within biochemistry. And to be honest, if I had more time, I would love to look into that. Because when you work, I mean, then I worked in telco. I worked for Microsoft for quite a few years in the UK, and then came back to Sweden, and then I joined Telia, big corporations, all of these. And then just after doing Telia Division X for a few years, I then joined Myrspoven, which is an energy optimization company using AI, which we're going to talk more about. But it's going from big telcos, it really feels good to do something for the planet. I mean, it might sound cheesy, but what if you can work, for healthcare when you go home every day and you feel, I'm doing something good here. I mean, I'm all for earning money, right? It's great to be successful and to make something that makes a difference, right? But also to do the right thing.
I mean, you can't just optimize for money. Then you would probably go selling drugs or something. I mean, if that was the only thing that you were interested in. So, I mean, obviously you want to do something good, I hope.
No, but I see what you're saying here. That like here we have something that is really meaningful for the planet. To tackle these things. And I think we are talking about it also. There are vast opportunities in doing good business by just doing things super smart that solves real problems instead of solving superficial problems. So if we all have that sort of, how can I make money? How can I have fun solving real problems? Of course, super cool.
Yeah, for me, it did make a difference. I mean, it's not like, Telia is a great company, right? And they make great solutions, and they digitize, and they make real difference.
And communication is, of course, also a real topic. Vital
Absolutely.
Topic.
And there in Telia, I also got, introduced to data and with Crowd Insights, which is then, people movement using data in the mobile network or in a Wi-Fi network anonymously. And during that pandemic, this got massive. Because we can, on a big scale, see how people move in society. We can't see how individuals move, but we can see how people move on a group scale. And this, of course, during the pandemic, when we had restrictions in how we were able to move, this got huge and a huge public interest as well. And there. We worked so hard. I don't think I ever have worked this hard as when the pandemic hit, and all of a sudden we've worked with the Public Health Agency in Sweden and the other Nordic countries.
But when was your first real aha moment with data and analytics? Was it really hitting home around your time here in Division X and when you were developing and working with these products here?
It was in Telia, definitely, but it was
a little bit earlier, maybe.
It was, yeah. I was actually the business owner for retail, so we're looking at retail and what offerings Telia could have in the retail segment, and then of course Telia sells Wi-Fi to lots of big retailers, and we sell the Wi-Fi as in we operate it. They are kind of renting it from us, if you want. It's a service. Mm-hmm. So in there, we could also sell analytics service on the Wi-Fi, where we can also then anonymously see how many people and how they move inside their shops. Mm. And that's when I started to see that. This has got huge potential because a Wi-Fi network is not made for that. It's made for communication. But there are other ways to use it as well, and there are a lot of insights that you can get from that kind of data.
Because you have from your phone, you have data points in the network, and now what can you do with data points? And here we can do many things for a retailer.
Yes, absolutely. But then I also got introduced then to Crowd Insights, where we do the same thing but with a mobile network. And here, in both these instances, we have huge privacy concerns, right? Because this is a device that you hold in your hand, i.e. where you are is personal data. So then, and that got me also really interested in this. There's so much data out there, and there's so much used in the wrong way. And I feel that all the personal data that I leave, my trace, I don't get any benefit from it. I walk into Mall of Scandinavia, and I know that probably 20 shops in here will be able to know pretty much that I'm here right now, or they have lots of data on me and my behavior, and I don't get anything for it. In terms
just to challenge that idea a bit, and I'm going to steelman the argument on the behalf of the shops, I guess, in this case.
Yeah, go.
Imagine that they had no data about you. They didn't know what you have shopped for before, what products you have bought, where you are, who you are, demographics, or anything. And then they still want to target you with ads. Potentially, some people can think that ads can be bad in general, or you can say it's not so bad if it at least understands my interests.
And that's my point. That's what I want to get.
Yes. Okay.
When I walk into a shopping center, I want to get personalized ads with things that are relevant to me.
Yes.
But I don't want to get, the boots that I bought yesterday.
Oh, okay.
For sale.
So she said, what do I get for this? Was not to get paid for it,
Nope.
but to get relevancy when you walked into.
Yes,
actually, your argument fell flat because she was actually meaning.
I did. I thought you were going to say that you don't want any kind of data-driven ads, but
no,
you want
the point was you want personalization.
I want properly data-driven ads. I believe that we are going to be loyal to maybe not hundreds of brands, but very few brands, but the ones that we feel trusted, we feel that we can trust with our data and our behavior. And there, I mean, the shopping experience online today is much better because there they actually can personalize what they show me. That can also get a lot better, to be honest. Yes, but I see that you should never, it's hard to get paid with money. I think that there is a lot of things you can say about how do we actually merge different types of data to be able to serve this in a secure way.
Right.
And we don't really have those mechanisms today. But I mean, an example would be I go to the doctors and I get a prescription. And outside the doctors, I get my have prescription in my hand, and I want to know what is the closest pharmacy that's got this one in. Because, I mean, there must be many times you go to the pharmacy, we don't have it in. And you go, so at that point in time, I would be willing to share, not necessarily who I am, but what prescription I need and my location. Right. And then I want back from the closest pharmacies, I want back, do they have it or not? To serve me with the insight, where should I go to get it? But that, of course, requires lots of different things. I mean, my prescription is still personal data. My location is still personal data. But if you separate the two, they could be anonymous as well. It's just a prescription. They're just getting, do you have this in or not? They don't know anything else.
So taking a step up and thinking about the problem, you can definitely build safe systems around it. You can screw it up, yes, but you could build safe systems around this information exchange, this insight exchange.
Yeah, but to do that, you need to have some sort of a very trusted party in the middle, handling the exchange of all these different data sources. So here we're into actually what kind of ecosystems do we need for proper personal data management? And we haven't really solved that yet. And that's why it's still frustrating to go into Mall of Scandinavia and actually...
But let's talk about ecosystem and this particular angle on ecosystems later. I think that's a really interesting one.
Yeah.
I think we need to spend a couple of minutes on Division X and the whole experience, what you were part of building up and offering in the pandemic I think you received prizes for it as well, and a lot of recognition in media, and something is super useful.
Yeah, I mean, it was an incredible experience to have been through, actually. So it started with, I mean, we had Crowd Insights, which
What is Crowd Insights?
So Crowd Insights is how we anonymously can analyze people movements using the mobile network data that Telia has and owns. This service took about 2 years to develop, but 18 months of those 2 years was only the legal privacy bits. Because, I mean, Telia, being Telia, very... very cautious in this area and would not want to tread the wrong way, right? So they are super safe. And I mean, I would say, they're pushing a bit too far in this, but then again, we've had many interesting discussions with legal. And this is the way, if we were going to do it, it was, according to these rules and regulations that they put up, which meant that we can divide the whole country that we're operating in. So that is, today it was, the Nordics and the Baltics into squares. And these squares are then 500 by 500 meters. So they're quite big. So if you look at the central Stockholm, you have the whole of Sergels Torg and big areas around it would be the same grid. And we could say how many people are residing within this grid. But our data would always be 24 hours delayed. So it's always kind of historical data, and usually 36 to 48 hours delayed. And that's because the anonymization process, but also it's a privacy in itself not to be real time. So we could see how many people were in this grid. And then we have historical data from 2019. So then, of course, we could look at differences in people behavior before the pandemic and after the pandemic. This data, actually, we had a service that was ready, and so we approached Folkhälsomyndigheten, or the Public Health Agency in Sweden, in March 2020, when everything just went nuts. It was just absolutely, everything went to a stop, and everyone nearly stopped breathing, going, "What's going to happen now?" And of course, they got approached by lots and lots of different startups and companies wanting to help. But they kind of quickly saw, we had like 10 minutes with them. And quite quickly they saw the potential in our data. Because we could see, difference in trips in Sweden before, say, the 1st of March and the 26th of March. And it was down by 60% or something. I can't remember the numbers now, but it was a big difference. So we saw a change in movement. And Folkhälsomyndigheten at that time had a real big problem in knowing whether people were adhering to their recommendations or not. So they had all these observations of people going, there are lots of people at the outdoor restaurants on Medborgarplatsen, even though, Stefan Löfven has been saying that we're not allowed to gather in groups. And there was the car park was full at this shopping center, or
almost anecdotal, or almost
always anecdotal. And of course, the media would blow this up, and they could not quantify whether this was true or not. So therefore, they saw also that we have continuous data. There's new data coming every day. They saw a big potential in this, and also that we then had this product already developed with all the privacy concerns that had already been addressed. So they felt comfortable because they would in no way they would compromise that aspect just to be able to use data to fight the pandemic. But that made things so smooth in terms of just getting to. We did it pro bono for at least the first 3 months. And that was something that, CEO of Telia Sweden said, there's no way we're going to charge for this. This is going to be free, which also was nice at the time. But it also meant that we had customers, and we were busy delivering to our current paying customers.
From Division X.
Yes, exactly. So we had no kind of resources to do what the Public Health Agency were asking for, because we had data and we had the service, but it wasn't optimized for what they needed to do. So we actually contacted Accenture. We had worked with them before, and we basically said, "Are you willing to do this with us for free?" And they did. And again, this was really strange. It was people coming together and really kind of rolling our sleeves up and like, let's try and see if we can do this.
But I'm not sure everybody knows the whole story, that was Telia pro bono, and then how it really happened in terms of we need to now work on this service. And so it's pro bono work from Telia and Accenture in a collaboration, this is awesome, I think.
Yeah, it was absolutely fantastic. Because we had to go, a service that we had delivered previously before the pandemic on a monthly contract where we had
flip it to daily.
Yes, we had to flip it to daily. We had manual QA on all the reports and all the dashboards that we released prior to the pandemic. And we had to go from that to have dashboards that hundreds of customers, including the public health agencies, were looking at. Not daily, because, you always take at least 3 days to see a trend in this type of data. But it was still, it was massive. We had to standardize. We had, in terms of the data, we had to do reaggregation on, loads and loads of tables to really, from the bottom up, make sure that we were ready for this. When we started, we had different dashboards in all countries because they were feeding off different tables. So we couldn't take a dashboard and then just pop in data from Finland instead. We had to redo it from scratch. All of that, we just had to standardize. And we did this in I don't know, months. It was absolutely nuts. And I think everybody worked so hard also because they felt that, we're really making a difference here. And then it was the media. The media aspect was, Telia, Telia, they're in the media quite often, and it's usually quite negative. We're one of they are. I don't work there anymore. So quite targeted. It's not fair. Media is like, oh, let's try and nail Telia for this and that. But that's the way it is.
Media is biased?
Yeah, and it's also the way it is to be one of the biggest and well-known brands in a country, but it doesn't feel fair. No. But then to have them, they had scrutinized Crowd Insights previously when we launched, if it was 18 months prior to the pandemic. And we were on, Rapport, I think it was, and they were like interviewing people going, how do you feel about Telia tracking you? And we're like, we are not tracking anybody. Yeah. So then, of course, 6 weeks later, they had to come with a correction. But no one would put those two events together. So it was, we had, our comms section in Telia were also very worried about us being so forthcoming with Crowd Insights and what we were doing. But then again, we all felt that it was the right thing to do. And yes, we got some hard questions, absolutely, from media. I actually sat in the morning studio in SVT, which was crazy, by the way. But you sat there in the sofa, and they were saying, "Ooh, I'm getting some China vibes." But it was, of course, I had the right answers to that then. But it was. It went from asking those questions, they just wanted me to explain. So I guess that was fair. I could explain, and then they were happy with that. To actually just being interested in what the data said, which was, it was a huge transition to
but this is a transition in many ways of also from a very positive in the end.
Very positive, absolutely. And and I think trust in data, I think that's where we still are. We have to build more trust in data as a service.
It's funny how, data can actually be very beneficial for people sometimes, but sometimes it gets skewed into another viewpoint in an extreme. And I can just share an anecdote from myself. For like 10 plus years ago, I was like having a talk at some point, didn't even speak to journalists, but some were in the audience. And I said, proudly how we can collect data to understand the users, and in that way do music recommendations that really hits, the heart of what people like. And then we can really make the users happy in being able to discover new music they've never seen before. And then the day after, a newspaper wrote, Spotify tracks everything you're doing as the headline.
Of course.
And it's like, why? Can't they at least be a bit more objective in trying to see that data can actually be very beneficial for people, as long as you also concern or are concerned and conforming to all the privacy rules that we have?
Yeah.
And it's a bit annoying, right?
Yeah, it is. And I guess, again, it's to get more clicks. Yeah. And it's kind of the way that industry works, which I think is a real shame.
Yes.
Yeah. But can we sort of distill out some sort of real lessons learned or key takeaways from this experience? You said it, I think you said the first one already, to trust the data and to have credibility and trust in the data and be able to explain is one of the absolute most vital components of any data or AI endeavor. That was the thing that actually, and you could feel it even sitting in the television morning sofa. When did now they got it? Now we can talk value.
Yeah.
And you had to go through those first stupid questions, China vibe, until it got to the real questions. Yeah. I think this is a really simple but profound
and that's
insight.
why, in terms of media, I got lots of experience in how it works, and of course super nervous to be on a live broadcast. And also the morning news or whatever, but then you can control the narrative because it's live.
Yes.
I mean, at the same event, I did an interview for Rapporten and Aktuelt.
And they cut it.
And then, I mean, it was a long interview. They probably talked to me for 15, 20 minutes and asked loads of questions. And then afterwards, when I thought about it, I go, how did that go? I'm actually not sure, because I have no idea how they will cut that. But then, of course, I mean, they were trying to get to the value of the data. So they were trying to do the right thing. They were not trying to, Yeah,
but you're totally in the hands of the objective or the motive of the reporter, because you could probably do whatever you want with that.
Yes, I mean, yeah, absolutely. And I think, again, there is a difference between different types of media. I mean, it was great because you got to speak to, TT and Expressen TV and TV4 and they do ask slightly different questions.
Can you give some, who's the best ones or worst ones?
No, I mean, there was never anyone actually questioning the data as such. That was probably SVT was the one doing that. And I think that was also for preempting those thoughts that the viewer might have. So they gave me a good opportunity to explain how it worked. Okay. So I don't think they tried to put me on the spot or anything. Although it wasn't like in the manuscript. They probably followed the manuscript by about 60%. The rest was just, going rogue. But then you have... but then, I mean, Expressen TV, for example, we did virtual kind of interviews online. And it was all like, so can you see that... is there really no one going to Gotland? Or they wanted me to always make assumptions around what the data said. And I said, I don't know. So I don't know what they were doing. I can only say that there was, 13% less or more or whatever it was than before the pandemic. I set no value in that. Someone else will have to interpret, but that's what the data says. So can you see that Öland is not as popular as Scotland? I cannot say that. I'm not going to say that either. But they were fishing for making some sort of judgment on what that meant.
Yeah, annoying. I'm very curious though. How did you tackle the China vibe question? You said you were prepared for it. Did you have a way to handle that, or what was your approach to answer that question?
No, but I mean, it is anonymous. It is anonymous data. So we know from the source of the data, there has to be 5 people doing the same trip for us to even see it in the analysis. Otherwise, it's 0. There's nothing there. So
it's called like K anonymity, I think.
Yes. So we have a K5. Yeah, K5, exactly. Yes. Exactly. So, and that makes us, and we have no idea what you're doing in that square or 500 by 500 meters. I think we were talking about actually one square in Malmö, which has the shopping mall in it. Also, were they shopping? I have no idea if they were shopping. Because they were in that square, I can assume that they were shopping since it's mainly...
a shopping mall.
Yeah, exactly. But they might have been sitting on a bench. I have no idea. We can't see them.
They were all coffee drinkers.
Yeah, exactly. So I guess what I did was first to explain a little bit about the technology, but not going down too far. And I think this is what sometimes in tech, we over-explain it. And then it gets too complicated and you lose the one listening, which makes, again, the trust issue. You have to always keep it on a very high level. And I mean, it could be anything. We can show someone a data flow chart and they're like, and you ask, do you understand this? And if they sit down for 5 minutes and look at it, they would. But just looking at it, it's too complicated. So they scroll. They don't take the time to understand it. And we think it's super easy and going, yeah, but we were showing in the data flow how the data is flowing. This should be straightforward. But I think we really have to raise it up much higher. I mean, I shouldn't say talking to a child because that wouldn't be fair either. But I think it's very easy to get blind in terms of what level to speak at.
But I think this is a super important question, almost on its own. and that I also want to park a little bit, because I think this, how we communicate, how we get adoption and all that, this is one of the key challenges. When you know too much about your topic, to calibrate to someone who has a completely different pair of eyes or goggles on them, or they're looking at a different perspective, and we are not in tune, right? So, but I think this warrants its own little its own little segment, really, because I think this, how do we communicate, how do we do this well, comes into is core, how you succeed.
I think so too, and I must say also, I think you're one of the best speakers I've seen as well. I actually stole a number of slides from you in my talks as well.
Brilliant, like that.
And I can give one example. I think one of the Data Innovation Summit years, like 2 or 3 years ago or something, you were speaking about China and other things. I was actually at that time...
Correction, NDSML. 2019 Nordic Choice Hotels.
You don't even know what I'm going to say, but okay.
No, I know what she was presenting. So.
Okay. Anyway, I was actually hosting a representative from China at that time.
I remember that, Anders. I remember. Oh gosh, I was so nervous when you came and introduced me to him afterwards. Yes. Yeah, but please go on.
And he was, as most Chinese people, very polite and very happy and very glad to be there. And Goran and gave him a free pass, and he could listen to all the talks. And I mean, it was really nice, and he was very happy. And we sat down and listened to your talk, and I thought it was very good as usual. But then you came into China and the way they have cameras and the way they use it, and what was it? It was about the...
It was about it's how you apply AI rather than the AI in itself. So it was more about how
the cameras and the bus and the picture of the bus and some billionaire or something.
Yes, so it was a bus that had a huge picture of a main celebrity in China, well known, and the camera actually identified the picture on the bus as if she was jaywalking.
Yeah,
and they put all jaywalkers up on a wall of shame in China, so you can actually see with identity and everything. And of course, that's a lot of shame, and you don't want to lose face in China.
So in short, if you jaywalk, they have cameras, of course, that they identify you,
and then they find you
in real time, and they put it on the big
wall of shame,
wall of shame screen, and they also withdraw a fine automatically, right?
Yes. And in this particular case, she had her face on the side of a bus.
Yes.
So and the bus was running by when it was obviously red light, because the bus was driving when it was green light for the bus. But
yes, I mean, there's a lot of things that you could see that the AI might pick up on, but it's let's all agree on the fact that the data is never 100% accurate. I mean, we always have flaws. I mean, there's never going to be.
And this is an example of how careful we need to be and how we need to think about this carefully.
Yes. And it's also, I mean, I think that we also have to agree on the fact that data is so good for so many things, but it's data, which means that it's never 100% accurate.
And it can be interpreted in very easily the wrong way, unless you're very careful and smart.
Yes.
But in any case, my point was that I think, the way you presented that is something that I was very inspired with. So that's why I was inspired and stole some of your slides as well. But then, I brought this person to you as well. And we spoke about, the, what should we call it? That China is also using data for good in some points.
Yes. And also the fact, and actually what he said to me, I've brought with me, because he talked about his mother, right? So we talked about the fact that there are cameras at every corner, and he said yes. And my mum, she takes her bike and she goes to buy her flowers, and she goes back. And then, since I've lived in the Western, in the Western world for a few years now, so I am also, thinking that, the privacy issues around the cameras following her. So I had the conversation with my mum, and I said, but Mum, don't you know that, the state is watching you? Yeah, but I haven't done anything wrong. And the aspect of the fact that the mum feels safe and secure because the state is looking after her. Yeah. And of course, that's not the way we see it. But we can't either. I mean, I don't agree with what they're doing in China. Let's just make that super duper clear,
We all do,
yeah. But her way of looking at this, we can't ignore the fact that not everybody feels, like their integrity has been stolen from them. Yeah. So, I mean, I really took that with me, saying that some people are actually, they like it. Maybe it is because they don't know anything else. But they don't feel it intrusive as we, of course, would in our culture. So I just feel that we have to be respectful.
So this becomes the whole topic of when we start talking about AI ethics and values and all this is so deeply connected with our culture or whatever values are within that group or that community that you belong to. So you can't really you can't have someone else's community and look at ethics and value. It's really difficult, how we do this.
Yeah, and you can't tell people how to feel about different things. Exactly. I mean, I am all for, all the UN rules in terms of human rights. And we should have I feel that we should have the right to choose whether I want to be followed or not. But I also have to respect that someone else might not think that. And believe it or not, I mean, I don't agree with the way they do it in China. But I also said in my speech that it doesn't come without perks. I mean, they do have lots lower crime rates. And they have, of course, it works in certain aspects. I don't believe in the sacrifices you have to make, clearly. But it's not that they're doing it for nothing. It is having its effect, but it's also, again, I do not agree with the sacrifices you have to make in terms of the human integrity.
Yeah, I mean, as every type of power, it can be used and abused. And there is this balance about trying to minimize the abuse and maximize the proper use of it. Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I think we should move into Myrspoven.
Right.
And first of all, I'm curious, how was the transition? How did you end up in Myrspoven? What was the story when you
Yes, the story was that we have a smart building initiative I am not with Telia anymore. I have to, but we were looking into smart buildings and what kind of digital solutions we could support within smart buildings. And I, of course, was looking at the future potential AI solutions that we could also use in that area, in that segment. Because of course at Telia they offer IoT sensors, lots of different sensors measuring temperature and humidity, carbon dioxide within different rooms. It could be offices or whatever, and then you can use that to digitize your building. And I wanted, of course, to then see how we could use AI in this context. So then I got into energy. Of course, is the biggest source of cost for a real estate owner, and something that, of course, then should be optimized. So we looked at quickly. My data scientists had a look at what would it take if we would do this, if Telia would do this, and we realized that the actual algorithm itself might not be. It's not easy. Let's put it that way. But they said, it's doable, probably. Some people have done it. But the hard thing is, of course, to get all the integrations for the data, to have all the access to the data that you need. There you have, he said 4 years of development or whatever. And then also, I thought, again, Telia shouldn't really do this. We have no credibility in this space. Why would Telia offer this type of solution? It doesn't really make any sense. This should be a partner doing it. And then I found Myrspoven. Myrspoven.
So what's their mission?
Yeah, what is Myrspoven?
What is a Myrspoven? What does Myrspoven mean?
What's up with the name, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So the Myrspoven is a bird.
Exactly.
Yes. It's a bar-tailed godwit in English. So it doesn't at all work in English.
But you had to look that up, didn't you?
Of course.
Say it again.
Bar-tailed godwit.
Bar-tailed godwit in Swedish is a myrspov.
Yes. And a Myrspoven is a bird that flies every year from Alaska to to New Zealand or Oceania, so around
one of the longest.
Yes, and the longest non-stop flight of, is it 55,000 kilometers? And they do it. No, hang on, it's even more. I should get my numbers straight now, I feel. But anyway, it's an amazing flight, non-stop. And they do this. It's the most energy efficient bird in the world. Oh. And the cool thing with this bird is that it's also kind of developing its capacity. So it's beating its record like every year. So we've just had a new record now, 2022, where I can't remember, but it is crazy
The
amounts.
champion bird did it faster than anyone else.
It did, and sometimes it actually goes against wind to then be able to fly with the wind. So it's extremely energy efficient. So this bird, anyway, that is the inspiration to why we are called Myrspoven.
Nice story.
It's not bad.
And how did you come across Myrspoven then? Because you were researching the topic.
Yes, and I found them as a potential partner because what they do is basically optimizing energy consumption in buildings by connecting to the BMS, it's called, which is a building management system. So that's basically, if you connect the building to the internet, you have this box has got everything. It's got ventilation, heating, cooling, and different valves. It's got like thousands of data points. And they connect to the BMS. And they also then connect to sensors in the building to find out, to have corrections on temperature, humidity, and carbon dioxide.
So would we call it the house CPU or the building CPU?
Yeah, the BMS we call it. Yeah. But yeah, so Myrspoven basically can read and write to that. So it not only optimizes the parameters, they also set the parameters. So basically you optimize the building, you control the building through our portal then.
BMS standing for?
Building Management System.
I thought it was measurement system.
Okay, management, yeah. Yes. So that's what Myrspoven does. And I got in contact with them because it was a great fit for Telia, because we are, supplying the sensors and when I spoke to Myrspoven, for them, they just want the data. They don't really want to have to deal with the sensors. They just want the data. So it was kind of a match made in heaven.
They can focus on their core business, but then you both need to partner to solve the whole thing. Exactly.
Because we need to have part one, we have to have credibility in the optimization, which Myrspoven has got in Sweden at least. And then, so for Telia, it's a really good thing. And for Myrspoven, it's a really good thing because they can then scale together with Telia. So that's how I got introduced to them. And they are, now they're a scale up. I claim that they're a scale up, but we're now 45 people. They were probably about 30 when I started to talk to them. And then I did a partnership with them. So Telia and Myrspoven. And I think that's why they became interesting for me, because I'm very emotionally driven. So I need to really believe in what I do to make it worthwhile. And any others, I was of course curious of startups and new solutions, and especially then an AI startup that really uses data and AI to solve real problems. But I don't know them. I don't know what they do, and I haven't looked under the hood. Not that I understand everything that's under the hood, but I haven't really got to know them enough. If you read about them online, it doesn't tell you much. And of course, you get fed the story that they want you to see. Whereas if you really create a partnership with someone, you get to look a little bit more inside. So that gave me credibility around who they are and where they're going, and I really believe in what they're doing. I really think that, this is a problem. It's a real problem. It's worth solving. And they have, found a really interesting way of doing it. So then I wasn't really looking, to be honest, to move away from Telia and Division X. I had been there, for a few years, and I had done a cycle. And, after Crowd Insights and the whole pandemic, I think many people, like, wasn't it like a big wave of people changing jobs just after?
I think so.
Yeah, some sort of a change job movement after the pandemic. So then I just kind of felt that maybe it's the time.
So what is the formal mission of Myrspoven? Is it optimizing energy, or what is it? Did you know?
So yes, so it is. We have a 1% vision, we're saying, and that vision. So today, which I actually didn't know, just running buildings globally stands for over 30% of the carbon dioxide emissions.
Really?
Yeah.
Buildings, both private and
Yes.
company.
Yes.
Heating and cooling.
Yes, basically.
Really?
A huge number. And therefore, Myrspoven, we're set out on a big mission. We're saying that we want to, with our type of services, lower it with 1%.
Oh, that's really nice.
And a massive vision, right?
Yeah.
So I thought that was really cool. I mean, they think big. They want to, it's not like Sweden is their market. They want to go, we're going to conquer the world, right? So that was really interesting. And also doing crowd insights and getting to speak a lot about crowd insights and data and AI. I really also loved the storytelling part of my job that I had. That was, great fun to get to talk about it, to get to have the discussions afterwards. It really inspires me to try and talk about something that's really complex, but try and put it down to a level where everyone can understand. You don't have to be an expert in anything, because you focus on what the value is. But also sometimes, there's hurdles on the way that you also have to kind of explain. So that is why, when Anders then, who's the co-founder of Myrspoven, said, so how about CMO? Would you like to? Because I said you should stand on the barricades and talk about what you're doing. We don't hear you enough. Everyone in the real estate business probably know who you are, but we don't really know what you're doing. Tell us. Explain in a way that so we all understand. And they, of course, they've been this deep tech company born in the product. They've been developing the product. So
what is the product? Is it the BMS and the sensors, or what is the product?
No, so it's actually not the BMS and it's not the sensors, but it's an AI algorithm that takes in the data from the BMS system. So that's all the ventilation, heating, cooling data, but also social data like weather, like the sensors, so the temperature in the building, energy tariffs. But also what we call social data, which is actually, when people, imagine an office. When people go in there every day, 8 o'clock, you have 200 people in the building. That produces a lot of heat. Yeah. All so these computers, everything produces heat. But and if you don't have an intelligent system, that is not accounted for. So what we do is that we connect to the building, we read the data from the BMS, plus then we read the sensor data. We have forecasts, weather forecasts, and we have energy tariffs. And then we take 30 days to train the model, basically. And there's one unique model per building. So, because every building has got their own prerequisites, right? You have different, sometimes they're in a windy position, sometimes they're bricks, sometimes they're concrete.
So it gets its own pattern, so to speak.
Exactly. So we have 30 days to train the model, and then we start. So AI basically takes over the running of the building. And then
what does it really take over? Ventilation?
Ventilation, heating and cooling.
Cool. Okay.
And basically you can see it as we have people doing this, right? People can optimize the building by, pulling this lever or pressing that button and we do it in the same way. The big difference is the number of parameters that the algorithm can take care of. Yeah. And also the fact that we're sending optimized signals every 15 minutes. So we're optimizing the whole time. And then every day we retrain the model. Okay. So therefore we can also, if circumstances change, the model will also change. So, for example, if all of a sudden it's not 200 people, it's 20 because it's Easter break.
Or COVID.
Then, or COVID. Then we can adjust for that. I mean, it is, for me, it really makes a lot of sense that, a computer should be able to do this better than the person. But it doesn't.
An example of where AI is much better in looking at large amounts of data, but humans are better at other things.
Exactly.
And it's more parameters. You can take in more parameters and weigh them into your decision.
Yes.
That the technician, that data point on weather forecast or energy tariffs, you simply don't have.
No.
And sorry for asking this. I know you're not a technical person per se, but still, do you know any details of the model, or is that a secret, or is something you can share about, how the model actually looks like to predict?
I mean, I can't tell you any the technical. Again, I can tell you what the value is of the model versus doing it some other way. Yeah. So, for example, you can understand that, okay, we want the building to be hot between 8 and 5 because that's the working hours. That's so we can say without any algorithms, I can just say on at 8 and off at 5. Yes. But then I realized that, hang on, if I turn on at 8, it takes probably 3-4 hours for the building to heat up. So I need to go 4 hours earlier. So I need to have a big margin there in the morning. And then I don't want to turn it off too soon because I don't really know how quickly that temp is going to go down. Instead, what the AI would do is they would know what the temperature is outside. So they will know, by knowing the building, because it's trained on that specific building, it would know how quickly does it take to heat this building 1 degree.
Right.
So it would know exactly when to turn on and when to turn off to have the building heated by between 8 and 5. So, and again, it can also seasons. I mean, there's very different to do the same thing in winter and in summer. And different on a Tuesday from a Saturday. So just the fact that we can say that put weekend schedule on, it's different. We can change that, but the AI is so much more intelligent in finding out. So what do these margins, what do they need to be for you to actually optimize the energy consumption?
Cool. Awesome. And can you share anything more? You said you're about 45 people. And I guess any customers or something else you can share about,
We have, I mean, again, the cool thing here is that it's a completely scalable model. So I said that Sweden is not the territory that, we're having much bigger plans than that. And today we're actually we have a few competitors in the world in terms of doing it in a similar way. Again, this is an old problem. But if you look at the technology, we probably have 4 or 5 competitors in the world. And some of them are doing more square meters than we are today. But we are running more than 1,000 buildings without ever set foot in them, which is quite cool. And there's no one else in the world doing that. So we have proved that we have a model, a product that scales. But I would say that, again, it's a tech company. So up until now, they have kind of built the product and they have confirmed, yes, it works. And then they needed to talk about it. They needed to say, what does it do? They haven't done any proactive marketing at all before I came on board.
What has been their approach to acquire the first customers? When they were a tech product company and clearly they will have customers coming in through the process.
Yeah.
How did that work in the beginning for them?
So pilot projects with big real estate owners that of course they see energy being again a huge cost for them, the biggest cost by far, and also of course the sustainability aspect of it. So I think just from they could get in and get to pilot projects just by saying what I've said to you here today. I think the problem, as always with new solutions, is the credibility around, okay, so we're getting pilot projects, but, we need to scale. So we don't want, 10 buildings, we want 800. So, and to do that, you need to be super good in how you communicate around your solution, but also the credibility in the solution will need to be a big focus. People need to trust what we're doing. And also, okay, so AI can do this, but why should I choose AI for this? Why is AI better than doing it manually? Or, we have things here that actually takes the forecasting into account, but nothing else. What is the difference between those two? And that is a lot of my focus right now, to kind of nail down how do we actually verbally compete with different solutions? Because this is an old problem that we're just solving in a new way. And then to get people that have worked with this for a long time in a certain way to trust new solutions, to trust AI, which is, mystique in itself, that is always a challenge. And I think that is, again, the data and trusting the data. We're still building market in that. I mean, in terms of, we did a huge thing in COVID to get people to trust, people movement data, and actually that it can be, anonymous. There's always a, scale to what is anonymous and what is not, but let's not go there. But it's the same thing. We need to convince not only real estate owners, but also the people that are actually running the systems today. And they are, of course, maybe feeling threatened by, here comes the AI and takes over my job. But of course, we don't see it like that. We see that, okay, we can autonomously, we can optimize and steer your building. And from that, maybe we get 10% savings. But if you actively go in and help with the things that the systems cannot do, you'll get 18 or maybe 20% savings. So there is still, and I think that it's Anders, favorite kind of quote that, the machines are good at some things, the people are good at other things. And it's when we work together that we reach. I also have that in my slides, actually. Did you steal that too?
Maybe, perhaps unconsciously then. But,
we've talked about it a lot here on the show.
Yeah.
But I have one of my personal friends, it's quite interesting. He's one of the few, get this, professors in energy branding, very niched from Iceland. Energy and branding. So he's a brand expert, and he has done a lot around how do we brand energy, or how should the utilities do branding. And I had a very personal conversation with him around the word of, what's the difference when we talk about growth in a startup or any company versus scaling. So we were talking about very, our stuff, our companies that he's growing. And he said something to me that I thought was quite profound that I want to test on you. So that, Henrik, explain to me what you're doing. Can you nail down in a very succinct way? And Anders is laughing now because he's probably asked me that question 4 years now. And he said, I get what you're saying, Henrik, sort of. And I can understand it when you lay it out in 10 minutes. But then you're only hitting growth. So you can do the selling, and you can when you get your time to pitch or talk to someone, it works. But to scale, that's something else. Then you need to make it so super clear, so super simple, so you can put it in a bucket and duplicate and clone it and clone it and clone it. Do you agree with this kind of statement? It's a huge difference in what is required to be sharp in terms of marketing and your message to go from growth to scale or hyperscaling.
I definitely agree. And of course, having a background in Telia as well, that if there's one thing that Telia knows really, really well is how to scale, how to, really frame that little box that is the same for everybody, that we just can, deliver over and over again. So I would actually like to broaden it a little bit, because you said in terms of marketing, it's a lot to do with the product as well.
Sorry, you're completely right. We were talking about it from a brand marketing perspective, but it's the whole operating model, of course.
Yes.
It's everything.
Yes. And the productification of the data product, the algorithm itself, it's data. Of course it scales, right?
I get goosebumps. It's true. The productification of the whole thing.
Yeah. But we are organized. So we have an AI team and that's they're of course responsible for the AI, and we have my boss now, he will love me when I say that they have two different. There's one energy model that focuses on what comes from this building management system, and then there is another model that only takes in the data from how many people are in the building, feels the weather forecast, the energy tariffs, and then they're two different, and they actually. But the BMS, so the building management system, is the link between the two, so they operate side by side. But then the BMS is actually linking the two.
Why is this important?
Well, he thinks that this is very important. I always say that this is way too complex. You shouldn't talk about this. But he says because the energy model in itself, I mean, there are two different ways to describe this, and I think that maybe I'm actually in over my head here. But the social data and the aspects that you couldn't get from if you just have a BMS system and you're just looking at what you're doing, that we can optimize with one model. Actually, what the system is doing, how much do we open that valve to get this type of temperature in? And then you have all the other aspects that we add to the model, which is then how does people in the building affect the heating? How does it affect when the sun comes out? If it's sunny and it shines through the windows, we're now looking at how does that affect different components in the building? So that the heating over in one part of the building, when the sun is on that way, how can we then steer the building? Because right now you only have one pipe of heat into the building. That's what we can decide. How much energy should we shoot into the building to achieve the core temperature that you want? And if it's very sunny on one side of the building, that side is going to be really hot, whereas the other side is not going to be hot. So you want to then be able to separate without actually knowing. You don't have meters everywhere to know exactly where to go, but the AI can by looking at the components in the system understand this one is running really, really, really high right now. And we see that the temperature is also really, really, really high. So you can adjust this also, even if you don't have sensors everywhere in the building, you can adjust how you steer it to be even indoor temperature, even though the sun is on one side and not on the other. So, I mean, those kind of things. The two energy models in itself are probably, for this context, not important at all. But the fact that the AI itself is scalable. I mean, that's where we started, right? The AI is scalable. We know that. It's data. We can do 100 algorithms, 1,000 algorithms. That doesn't make any difference. But then we have the other part of the tech team, which is we call them the .NET team. And they're the ones who are responsible for all the integrations, all the ingestion of data.
Were they using .NET as well? Or what's the naming coming from?
Yeah, they're probably using .NET. I don't see why they would be called .NET if they didn't. No, I believe they do. Yeah. Probably in a lot other things as well. Yeah. I can have a conversation with the lead there, and you can have him here on the show. He would love to talk about it. And then they're also, they look at the UI and that sort of thing, and how we display all of this in our customer portal. And that also needs to be scalable. And then we have also the onboarding of a new building in terms of the parameters that we need to set to be able to.
How efficient can you onboard a building?
Exactly. And I mean, we can. If everything, if the stars are really lined up, we can do it in a day or in a few hours, probably. But sometimes it's much more complex than that. And then it's the running of the building. When we have an operations team today that very much supports our customers in terms of how they should use our portal and how they should help, the AI.
So here we start laying out now a business idea to a business model into an operating model. We have a core AI team that takes care of the algorithm and allows it to scale in different ways. Then we have the fundamental platform that we experience as a service, built in .NET and other things, from the UX to the microservices logic, whatever that is. And then, of course, we have an operations team that helps us install things, but also service and work with the customers.
Yes.
In a nutshell.
In a nutshell. And then we have a sales team and a marketing team as well.
Yeah. It's very core and fundamental for sure.
Yeah, but it's functional teams, yes.
But the clarity, in order to scale, you need to sort out and get efficiency and scalability in all parameters.
Yes.
And it's not only the algorithm that makes up the company.
No, and then also, I mean, what we're looking at now is how do we scale in terms of onboarding? You know, we can't have, you know, face-to-face meetings, and we can't have even virtual meetings, you know, peer-to-peer. It has to be, you know, online videos. It has to be something that is scalable, that doesn't take, you know, manpower from us. And I think that's where, you know, the hockey stick, you can't get the hockey stick until you have this sorted. And it's also, I mean, we have a full SaaS solution. If the sensors are already there, we never need to do any installations that is hardware related. So everything is basically digital. And there, of course, it's also very, very partner friendly. But then you're back into the productization of the product, because if a partner should sell it, it needs to be boxed. It needs to be simple. It needs to be the same. And that goes from everything in terms of the documentation. If someone else is going to do this for you, you need to make sure that it's you know, it can't look different. It can't be blue one day and red the other. It has to be the same.
I'm a bit eager to go to the regulation topic here, and regulation about data or whatnot. But before that, perhaps, are there any privacy concerns? You say privacy, I say privacy. I'm not sure what's
American, British.
Yeah, who knows? Are there any issues or challenges with using personal data at Myrspoven?
No, there isn't. I mean, mainly the data that we're using is not personal data. And then, of course, you have the normal type of personal data when you have your customers and they log on to a portal and that sort of thing. And then, of course, we do have personal data and whatever is required to do that. But that's fairly standard nowadays, I would say. But in terms of the data that we're processing on a big scale in the cloud, then we're looking at sensor data, BMS type of building data.
And there is not something that could potentially track any specific individuals in any way?
No, because when I said that we use the social data, the building will learn from the heating profile. It doesn't know that it's 200 people in the building.
Okay.
It just knows what it's normally like on a Monday to Friday. And that's, you know, the first 30 days is important to get that profile going, but that's also one of the things why we retrain the model every day.
But it does know the number of people in the building, right? Or
no? How could it know that?
I don't know. You have a sensor for how many people that goes in and out. Or,
no, we don't have that. We don't have that. So and because we do we have pre-trained models. So, you know, real time, those kind of data. They've actually looked at it prior to my time. They looked at it to see if that would add. But the building actually learns what the effect of however many people are in the building is. And then, of course, retrains every day.
How can that be used if it doesn't know how many people are in the building?
But they do know how much one person would contribute to. But this building runs with a certain profile. And then you can see the difference between a Monday and a Sunday, for example. And then, of course, you can assume that it's people, but it could also be something else. Yeah, it could be, exactly. It could be elephants, it could be anything.
So it's a heat profile. It's
a heat profile, yes. Or a cooling profile.
What are the sensors that you are having then?
So it is basically temperature, carbon dioxide, and humidity.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, that should be perfectly safe from a GDPR point of view.
I believe so.
But I'm a bit eager still to just get your views on regulation in general. I mean, you're able to to not having to deal too much with the GDPR, at least not for the sensor and the BMS system.
But you've done a lot of work on this, by the way.
At Telia, yes.
Telia.
Yeah.
So you're quite knowledgeable.
I'm quite familiar with the subject, yeah.
To say the least.
So if we could move there quickly, at least, I see the time is flying away as well. So perhaps we can move a bit more into social and more.
I think, topics. Okay, then I do it like this. I want one final question to sort of wrap up Myrspoven, and then we move into other very interesting topics where Anders can have a go.
And you as well.
Yeah, but with regulation.
Is it some sort of a grilling session now we're getting into?
I'm just waiting for the philosophical topics.
I'm really keen to talk about how we operate and organize when AI is a part of core business. This is my sort of pet peeve today. He wants regulations. He can have it. I don't want that.
Yay, Anders. Let's do it.
Regulations.
Anders always picks the fun topics.
You know what I said? That's what I said when I had lunch with my boss now. Then I said, this contracts and reading and it's really not my game. And of course, you have to do everything. I mean, that is the thing. And that's also the thing at Telia, I was developing new services. There wasn't anything. So this and GDPR is, of course, the center of all that.
Now we stop it.
Yes.
Now we're going to...
I just want to say, because you hinted that I do not like regulation, but it's not true. So the proper regulation is very important and we should have it.
No,
so
I was actually hinting the opposite, that you are fascinated by regulation and want to talk about it all the time.
Awesome. That's very good. Thank you.
No, I just want to sort of summarize. I mean, you're on a scale-up story now.
And I do want to actually... to wrap up Myrspoven, then I also want to talk a little bit about the future, because
that was my question. I
read your mind.
Yeah.
There is so much potential here. What I've been talking about today is just our core service. It's just the energy optimization bit, and then what we have done now, just during this autumn or the last few months, is looking at how we can also optimize towards price. Because now when we see these very volatile energy prices, it isn't quite the same in B2B as it is in B2C, where, we are going to get many consumers buying electricity from the spot market. It's not really the same. I mean, in B2B, you have a lower percentage that they let loose. I mean, they do lock up.
Could they install batteries for commercial buildings to
there are actually solutions, startups doing that today, where you just kind of peak shaving, so that you run on battery when it is the worst. Yeah. There are what were they called now? Nevalto, maybe. Anyway, I had a pitch from them just the other day.
But we're moving into demand response.
Yes, exactly, and flexibility solutions, which is exactly what you're talking about. And that is something that we've already done as a pilot project. We're going to do it again this winter now, and it's a pilot project together with several different parties called Stockholm Flex, where Stockholm Exergi is in it as a producer of energy, and then you have consumers like one of our biggest customers, CSAB, so that's schools in Stockholm, basically. They have lots and lots of schools, and we have connected. They are running over 100 buildings with us. But they actually have a white label solution that's called Solida. But anyway, what we're doing for them is we're optimizing their energy consumption. So they know that their consumption is optimized, but also what they're doing is they're realizing that when the schools are closed, they have an excess of energy that they could sell back. And this is the first kind of step. We only have this on local markets today because the energy market is very local. So now it's Stockholm Exergi, and it's only in the Stockholm region where you have the buyers and the sellers. And so basically, we then allow CSAB to sell back to the grid, basically, when they don't need it. And then there are other buyers. They could be, factories or other things that are still going when it's past 3 o'clock in the afternoon, or whenever the kids are not there anymore, so that the school doesn't have to stay hot. And this is actually something that, it's massive. And I think this is really what we will see a lot of in the future, in terms of the flexibility market, where even consumers can sell back to the grid when they have an excess of energy. So this is a lot around future and what we're doing, and we're right on the front edge here in terms of developing this platform, this marketplace for where you can actually, give back to the grid and see if there are other consumers that want what you don't need, and that again, fabulous for the whole energy system and absolutely fantastic for the planet as well. So it's something that we all it's good for everybody.
We need to have an after work talk. I have friends who's working on this that you maybe should talk to.
Interesting.
Perhaps you could simply plug in your Tesla to the grid and basically sell energy in peak hours and charge it on lower hours.
They're on that as well, actually. There will be will be solutions coming for that as well.
So I
wouldn't be surprised.
I worked at Vattenfall before for many years, and we have been now I'm doing as you like it when you love your old employers.
Yes.
Demand response and smart grids. We talked about this in 2010, 11, even earlier. And we have envisioned how this would work and how this is working. And there's been many different examples. We have a very cool case study, what is the Brooklyn microgrid, smart grid, how you sort of start building a community in Brooklyn where you start connecting and exchanging energy between houses and balancing it locally.
Yeah.
Very much local balancing here. And when we're doing local balancing, all users are used. If it's a Tesla car, if it's someone, you use it super smart. And why is this so important? Well, in a large energy grid, the biggest problem is volatility in voltage. And then if you know and understand an energy grid, you have high voltage, super, like the big ones we see, the big energy cables, go up in the big area, and then we have middle, and then we have sort of what is happening at the local level, and then to sort of move energy between lower down to what we're using at home. There's a lot of waste in between here, and it's tricky, right? So to actually balancing and getting a good less volatility in voltage. If we can work with efficiency and flexibility and balancing on the local level, on a building level, is actually a huge benefit to the grid. Now, what does this mean? If you look at the whole energy grid today, the efficiency of an energy grid as a total for Sweden, if you go to Svenska Kraftnät, we are typically on as a system as a whole, on somewhere less than 50% utility rate. If you really look at it up and down and all this. Still, we have peak problems. Still, we can't manage this. And now we're talking about, we need to modernize our grids. The whole of Sweden need to modernize. And this is one of the biggest capital expenditures that our government will see in the next 10, 20 years. Now the trick is, if you do that modernization purely with copper, we can't even handle it in Sweden. But if you do it smart, if you do it with like with AI, with flexibility solutions, and basically maximize the output, so you're not operating at 40%, but you're operating at 80%, then we have a completely different ball game of how to solve the energy crisis in Sweden. We don't really have a demand. We have a problem with. We don't have energy to use right now, but it's actually a demand response flexibility problem more than if we were smarter with using our energy, we could solve this with a lot faster than with, we'd say we need more energy, we need to build more energy. That's very true, but we actually need to build a hell of a lot more flexibility and balancing in our smartness in our grids to otherwise it's such a massive investment otherwise.
No, I mean, that's true. And this is also a topic that I've been diving into a little bit lately. And what I was actually surprised to find out is that, again, the energy that we have in Sweden is sufficient for us. We export energy every day. Every day in northern Sweden, especially to Finland. But the energy market isn't local to Sweden.
No.
So we also have energy producers in the south and they of course now have a massive hole in Germany, for example, and down on the continent because they don't get the gas from Russia like they used to. Now they're getting some again, but not at all to the same level as they have, and they don't want to. They're trying to which means they want to buy our energy, which drives up the prices for us. So just because, if you can sell it for 10 kroner per kilowatt hour to Germany, well, then that's what the Swedes will have to pay as well.
What do you think about that?
I guess it's a market that really works in some ways because it's built to do this way. I mean, energy right now is something that we produce and use at the same instance. I mean, batteries coming and being bigger, and who knows what we're going to say about this in a few years' time, because the development there is, astonishing as well in terms of being able to save, energy. But I mean, I think that the export industry for Sweden in terms of energy is going to be huge. I think that is not only water and wind.
The government, for example, had a plan that at least made it possible to handle the energy production, at least in perhaps a bit of better way than Germany or some other country. Do you think it's fair that the Swedish citizens should pay more?
Of course, I don't feel that that's fair, because we have enough to produce for our needs. Yeah. But the energy market isn't national.
No. So you don't think?
I mean, that's just a fact.
A European market for energy. Is that fair, or should we change it?
Well, right now, of course, we don't think it's fair. But I mean, 3 years ago, we wouldn't even have this conversation because energy was so cheap. I mean, we're in this mess right now because the transformation to renewable energy sources is not going fast enough. Yeah. And the electrification of society at the same time is doing that we need more and more and more.
And my adding to the argument here, it's not only about adding more, it's about adding smartness.
Yeah.
It's more about smartness, yes. I would argue.
And batteries, of course, will help that, because then you can charge when it's...
That's part of smartness.
Yeah, exactly. Low capacity, and then you can use it when the demand is high.
So it's really a balancing.
Yeah, absolutely.
To understand the balancing problem is bigger than the actual...
No, I believe so too. That we're probably producing at an okay rate right now, but we need to be a lot
but
smarter
in the way we're using. But our systems are not smart enough to utilize that.
Smart is one thing. The other thing is really the fairness of the European market and how of course there are positive things with the Swedish energy companies that are making huge amount of profits right now.
Yeah.
Right.
And the government is owning some of them as well, should be said.
So that's at least some positive aspects of it, but the citizens of Sweden may not be benefiting as much.
No, and I mean that is true. And you could argue that that is not fair, and I think that's also why we are getting the subsidies back from the government, because in some respect they also realize that is not fair.
But it's actually bad business for Sweden to put people in a personal bankruptcy. That will cost more than what they made.
Definitely. But let me just ask you one question then that I've been thinking about lately as well. So when now all the diesel and all the petrol cars will disappear. I mean, in a few years' time, we have immense amount of tax on those types of fuels, right? We have, I mean, it's 80% tax or whatever. It's really high. It's a lot of money coming in to the state. Where are we going to get that money when we all drive EVs?
I have no idea.
I haven't thought about that angle, actually.
No.
That's a good question.
Yeah. Is it alcohol? What are we going to tax?
Ooh, that's a really good question.
But we're usually pretty good at finding new things to tax, right?
Yeah. No, one of Sweden's specialties, really. So I bet they will solve that one.
Oh, they have creativity and innovation when it comes to tax. I tell you that.
I think I'm not an economist in any way, but I think these kind of macroeconomics questions is really interesting. And I still remember this kind of AI solution trying to find the proper tax level. And they try to simulate basically how the society works when it comes to work demand and what happens if you have a certain amount of benefits, a certain level of taxes, and how that will affect the productivity of the country, etc. And they used an AI-based simulation of the society to try to define what is the optimal tax pressure that you should have of the system. I think this type of simulation based on data and AI to really understand from a data-driven point of view what the proper effects of changing things like what you said, what happened when fossil fuels and their tax income will disappear, is something that we should simulate a lot and not just guess about.
Here we have another system that we can optimize.
Yeah, definitely. No, I mean, and again, this is a perfect task for an AI. I mean, this is...
Because to really understand and work with this, it's so many different parameters that you need to weigh into an algorithm. So how can a human possibly do that in Excel?
They couldn't.
They couldn't.
No.
Interesting. But the future is bright and you're on a scaling exercise, and the whole demand response is a huge topic and a super important topic, of course. Interesting.
Yeah, and I feel, we're it's really interesting to come into this new industry now. I mean, of course, it wasn't this bad when I actually signed with them. I don't think the war even started then. So it was bad, but it wasn't this bad. It wasn't like, energy is something you discuss at the dinner table every night.
And we were joking about that.
Yeah, beforehand.
You don't need to be a nerd to know what a spot price is anymore.
No, exactly. And now everybody all of a sudden know Tuber and Greenlee and what they do. So that's, of course, really cool that people are interested in what you're doing. I think it's a bit sad that now everything is really getting a lot of attention. Before, we had mainly, the sustainability angle, and then not that many people were listening.
Okay.
But now when it starts to burn in their pockets, they will then, and that is the way it is. I guess we just have to settle that is the way it is. Otherwise, it takes long. It takes a long time. Yeah. Even when it burns in the pockets, it takes a long time to create the credibility around new technology for different solutions.
And I think we can now start going into more general topics. Yeah. And I sense a couple of topics we should try to cover. I think the regulation is quite interesting. I think the communication of topic around how do we market, how do we talk so that we will accelerate the acceptance of new technology. I mean, like we are too techy, maybe, all this. And then I would like to think carefully, my pet question a little bit like, what is your experience of organizing when AI is core, and how can we learn and how can we contrast between working in a company that has been around for 100 years versus a hardcore AI startup in some ways. But I think we go regulation first, Anders.
Yeah, how should we approach this? I don't know. But just to close the previous discussion, I mean, what is the saying? Necessity is the mother of all inventions or something, right?
Yeah.
And it's a bit sad that now, especially in your role and with Myrspoven, the energy crisis is close. It's necessary it probably will bloom your business, which is, of course, good, both for society and you. But it's also a bit sad that, it in some ways requires this kind of situation before people realize the need for it, don't you think? Yeah.
But I think we really witnessed that during the pandemic as well. And we've all said that, 10 years of digitization happened in 2. And I believe that there is a lot of great innovation that will be born through this energy crisis. And, we will get through it. It will be painful, but, we will get through it and we will be better on the other side. So right now, you can just embrace it, right? And do your absolute best to try and thrive and do the right thing.
But I'm a little bit surprised that we're also, how can this be? Haven't we learned through history that behavioral change doesn't take place? There's pain in changing. There is underlying inner pain in changing, from stop smoking to whatever. So the fundamental drive and motivation and understanding why we are doing it on a very deep level. And then also not only in an individual, but maybe in a community or in a society. That's the inertia we need to deal with. And are we amazed that inertia is there? Why don't we learn about this inertia and master it? That it won't go away, I think.
No, and I think a lot of that is actually communications.
Yeah, at least there are some good coming in. I was hoping after the pandemic, finally we will have some years of normality.
Peace and quiet.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
But now another crisis is coming up, and that will be bad. But at least some positive would come out of it. Perhaps the energy market is one of the positive aspects that we.
Maybe this accelerates us towards the real goal because of this.
But it is. I mean, I had this thought. After the pandemic, when you were like, I was basically, drugging on SVT news. I had it like it was popping up stuff every day, and you just like you had to look at it all the time, just following everything that was going on, news every night, and and then it calmed down, and then bam, there was a war going on, and you were there again, and you're like, oh, the brain is working kind of overdrive. I mean, I remember just when the war was happening, I sat my kids down and I said, just so you know, guys, this is not normal. I mean, a pandemic, I didn't even know the word before it happened. And now we have a war in our close kind of territory. And we're talking about, war aircrafts flying above us and that sort of thing. This isn't normal. And now on top of this, we get the energy crisis. The kids growing up now, I mean, do they think, or is the world supposed to be this? I mean,
for them, this is the new normal.
This is the new normal.
2020, this is the new normal in terms of taking, as you said, news on the side because you want daily updates on something.
Yeah.
For them, it's crazy to say it, but I don't hope it's going to stay that way, though.
Well, as the Chinese says, we live, or they say, I think, may you live in interesting time. And that's actually a very, nasty thing to say. But at least we are living in interesting times.
Definitely. I will definitely sign up on the fact that we are.
Should we take the boring subject?
Let's do it. Come on. We've been waiting now for a bit. Yeah. It's not boring.
It's not
to be
boring.
honest,
it's really
when
good.
I've been reading a lot about GDPR, and to be honest, I approve of the whole thing around it. I mean, it's there for a good cause. I think we can all agree on that.
Something we said a number of times is, of course, the intentions of GDPR is very positive, and I think we can all stand behind it. And then it's also a question of execution and implementation, etc. But in general, what do you think about GDPR in general? What's the pros and cons with that regulation specifically?
Again, intention really good. In practice, it wasn't great. I mean, lots of consultancies got paid a lot of money to go through all that. They made a lot of money through making sure that all corporates. I mean, to do that kind of big change. It wasn't productive. Then again, is that what it takes? Is there any other way? It's not like I've been studying how to do it in a better way either. The intention is definitely good. Then I wonder if we're ever going to keep up. I mean, when is it going to be, again, feel ancient and we have to renew it? We are in times where technology is moving so fast that I think that laws and regulation in general will have a very hard time keeping up.
Just to take an example, there are a number of regulations. I mean, the e-privacy directive came up, I think, in beginning or end of 2000 or something, before 2010, and they spoke about like cookies on websites, etc. But at that time, it was basically, and I'm not an expert here, so don't take my word for granted here, but they basically said that, okay, cookies is implied to be okay to have. So that was okay. So then GDPR came, and suddenly, if you don't have given explicit consent for storing cookies, you need to have this kind of explicit consent. Therefore, you have these kind of pop-ups coming up on every website, blah, blah, blah. Luckily, what I've heard, they are going to change that, and it's going to...
Phew!
The cookie law.
the EPR is going to change soon, as far as I understand it. So obviously, it's going to be rectified finally, but who knows? But sometimes, it's hard to understand the effects of a regulation like GDPR. And the cookie law is a small thing. You just get annoyed. You have to click all these kind of pop-ups all the time. But there are other effects that are a bit more severe, I would argue. Just to give an example, there can be a Swedish retailer. They, when in 2018 in May, when they heard that they can get fined 4% of their revenue for potentially not complying with all the requirements of GDPR, they choose to remove all their reviews and perhaps shut down a recommender engine, and that will be something that both the company and the users lose by. And that's a sad thing, right? What do you think about, could GDPR have been implemented in a better way? Or if we look back, and look in hindsight, could we have done it better somehow?
Simple the only answer is yes, right? Because we know, how much money it just costs to go through, because it was, the customer call.
Can you share some stories perhaps from Telia's time at that 2018 and before?
So I wasn't then involved in the GDPR and how, but there was teams, loads and loads of people. And I have had discussions with loads of people from the legal team who were actually the people, doing this. It is tricky because a company like Telia and every, old company, they have hundreds of systems, and many of them are they have to be there for a reason or another, but they're not actively used, there's to be able to go through the whole thing, because if you call Anders and you say remove all data on me, and then we have to make sure that is actually done, otherwise there is big problems. That is a lot to ask from any for any customer facing company, any that has
and of course having old systems to deal with, where this type of questions was never considered in how they were built.
There's all the legacy systems, and that I think is what adds all the
real complexity.
Yes, and all the man hours when you have systems that not many people know. And legacy systems, I think they probably still. I know they're closing them down, but I bet you they still have hundreds of systems, and it must be the same at Vattenfall and Scania as well.
I know the count when I was there in how many SLAs we had.
Yeah, the thing is, when GDPR came, there wasn't many people knowing what the heck it was all about, right? They didn't understand either what their rights were, or, did they have to do anything? And they got all these messages saying agree to this and that. And I think, again...
And the ambiguity. I don't know if you sat with different legal teams and got very different answers to how to solve to be compliant. And it's a little bit like there was no case law established. No. There were no prejudice. No. There was no cases to work against.
No.
So there was very, very much interpretation of what is LIA, what is intent, what is a legitimate intent.
But at least Telia had a legal team that was of significant size.
So we did. But it was. And we put, extreme amounts of resources behind this. But I know also that we had...
Imagine all the other companies. That's my
absolutely.
point.
So we Vattenfall could do this. Telia could do it. We scratch our heads and we worked it out case by case.
Money.
It's ridiculous. We work through case by case, system by case system. And by the way, I want the lawyer Kalle instead of Lisa, because when Kalle looks at this, I can work with that. When Lisa works with this, I can't work with that.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous.
Right? And of course we had that. We had the yaysayers and the naysayers, and the ones who had no kind of interest in whatever commercial proposal we had. But it wasn't always logic, and when it's not logical something, then it gets very, very annoying.
And what I'm saying now, the yaysayers and the naysayers, it wasn't that they were not professional.
No.
They were just really smart in understanding how to interpret the law.
Exactly.
And they actually, probably the yaysayers understood it better.
Yeah.
In my opinion, they could guide you what to do, versus the naysayers, you said no and no guidance.
Yeah, and at Telia, we're also a telco, which means that we have to oblige under the e-privacy law, which is one step further from GDPR, so it's even worse. And then all of a sudden, we end up in having to do different things than our competitors, because they're not a telco. They can analyze. Google is not a telco, so they can analyze, but we can't, because we cannot analyze a Wi-Fi. you go into the nitty-gritty and it does not make sense. And then it gets really annoying. Yeah. And we had lots of different questions around that. And at one point we went actually to PTS, to Post, who is our authority. Yeah. And to ask, if this is for the good of everybody, we're trying to do a good thing here. How should we interpret this? And actually, we had a very good open discussion, and we ended up being allowed to do what we wanted to do. But that's not generally the case. It's usually very black and white.
And now back to Anders' question. What about the rest of Swedish B2B company who doesn't have a legal team like Telia or Vattenfall?
No.
How do you cope? How could you have coped?
I think many people just took the risk.
Or opposite, didn't do anything.
No, exactly. They took the risk of, who's going to find me? Who's going to know what I'm doing?
Some took the risk and some others just shut down.
I mean, some fundamentally shut down and went way back.
But I mean, then again, removing reviews and those kind of things, it is just bad for everybody. No one actually, benefits from that. So I think that's really sad that it becomes that way, because privacy and privacy laws is actually a good thing, and it's a good intention. No question
about that, right?
No.
I mean, we really need that, and just to quote Elon Musk, we have to do that. We haven't done that yet tonight, and I think we need to do it at least once. But he is a big proponent of regulating AI in general, and I think is potentially one of the biggest threat to mankind.
But there's no general thing. You can't say that in general. You can't ban a whole technology.
No.
I mean, we're talking about how you apply AI. It makes a massive difference. And of course, we do need to regulate it. I'm not saying that we don't need, as we said before, regulations are good and they're needed, especially when you have such a power thing as AI can be. We need to make sure to keep the AI in line.
Yeah, but again, let's move over to the AI Act now, because you said it yourself. How do we regulate a core technology versus regulating the use, or how we apply the technology?
Yeah.
Because the core topic is it becomes really strange.
It has to be, you have to regulate how you apply it.
Should I regulate that we can't have knives? Or should I regulate that I can't have,
No, you should regulate that you can't use a knife to give harm to yourself or others.
And this is...
I mean, we've spoken about that, and just to give that specific example, I think it's nice. And I gave the example: if I have a knife, or let's say a hammer, and I hit that on the head of Henrik, and that will be a nasty thing, and I should get punished for that.
We need regulations to not understand that.
Then the question: what should that regulation be? Either it can be hammers is not allowed. But then I take a brick instead, and that's another technology or method that I can use to hit over the head. So should you regulate then the technique, the method, or should you regulate the effects of me hitting Henrik? I mean, for me, that's obvious what the answer is. It's super obvious,
of course.
Yeah, the effect you need to.
But if you study the AI Act, there is some wishy-washy stuff here where we sort of really are, if you take it back to the core ideas, we're actually regulating the hammer.
We could potentially regulate the intention.
Yeah.
Because then you're ahead of the effect. Because the effect could be too late.
Yeah, intention I can live with.
Yeah.
Yes.
But when we have, just because we are so bamboozled, because we have the word AI and it's technology that we don't really understand, we start going after regulating the hammer.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I agree with you.
Problem.
And again, I think this is kind of bottoming down to the fear of not knowing what you don't understand.
Exactly.
And I think AI and actually data in general, I've been mentioning trust a lot of times, and I think we have the same issue at Myrspoven, because then again, you have the energy technicians who then are afraid of being again run over by the AI and losing their jobs. What we're trying to do to kind of mitigate this is in the UI also showing this is the prediction. We now have a 48-hour prediction in our AI. So our AI predicts the behavior 48 hours ahead. And then the technician can see, this is what the AI is supposed to do. This is what the AI is proposing to do. And he has the ability to change it. He can turn off the AI if he wants to. But also, the AI is going to give suggestions. If you do this change, this will be the effect that it has. We recommend you to do this because this will have this effect. And again, this is about being transparent with what the AI is actually doing. And I think we need to be even better at doing this, because AI cannot be this black box that you fit something in and something else comes out and you can't explain how it happened. Sometimes you won't be able to explain exactly how it happened, but at least explain what comes out and what the effect has. If you change this, then, the output will also change to this. So try and have people interact with the AI, because as we say again, machines and people together, that is the secret sauce. Secret.
Yes, exactly. And then also, I think we should always have as a baseline, what's the manual way of doing it? What's the human way of doing it? And just taking the bank example of giving a loan or something. If you have a human deciding you get defaulted or not, you can always, of course, ask the human and saying, why don't I get a loan? And that's okay. And they will give some kind of description, perhaps. But you're not sure you can trust it, but at least that will be some description you can potentially get. And then if you ask an AI system, some people say, I need to understand the internals of the AI system to say why it declined my loan. And that's an absurd thought in my view. That's really wrong. It's like saying to the human, you need to explain how your neurons are connected in your brain to describe why you denied me this loan. That's not the way to do it, but you need to have a way that is understandable, interpretable of why the decision was made.
Yes. So maybe not, maybe not
the data
how,
to the
but
decision.
So explainable AI sometimes seems to get mismatched with a how question is, instead of asking the AI on what parameters it made the decision.
Yeah. And sometimes that could also be too complex. You might need the parameters might be way too many.
Yeah.
But then that's what we need to be very, very good at, to develop a way of actually making those parameters a few parameters that the human can then interpret in terms of why the decision was what it was.
And there are actually a lot of XAI, explainable prediction techniques, that can show, given this input data, this is actually the positive sides and the negative parts of the data that made me make this decision.
Yeah.
This is actually how I think most humans would also do it. They show, this is the input data I have, this is the part of the data that was a positive thing, and this is a negative thing.
Yeah.
And AI can actually do that. People don't realize, but the AI can. Even super big, deep neural networks can do this.
If you know how to program and set it up, you can get that as part of the result.
Yeah, and I think that's a lot what we're trying to do with our AI suggestions, because we want to teach, the technician that, this is what we're going to do if you don't do anything. But if you do this, this is what I can do. Potentially I can save even more, but it might have something that you need to have do, or, the room here seems to be way too warm, go and adjust it or do something that I can't do because I'm the AI.
But I sense a segue here, because we're coming into this topic now from the regulation, what is good and bad. And then we realized that the intent is good, but the practicality was horrible in many ways.
Could have been improved.
And then you drive us down some sort of conclusion path here. I'm sensing it, Elin. Transparency is key, right? Explainability is key. That starts to now shift me. What is it? This we should regulate. That things should be explainable and transparent.
But if the intention is wrong, if the intention is still to hit you in the head with a hammer, then it doesn't matter if you can explain that intention.
But do you need an AI law to fall back on that intention of hitting someone is not right? Do I need a separate AI?
No, but let's go back to China then. Let's go back to China. What is the intention of putting up collecting all that personal data? What's the intention of doing that? Because, again, we have lots of CCTV in the UK, but it's not used proactively. It's used reactively, which is a purpose. The intention of using the data is good. Therefore, it's okay.
Yeah, and basically my argument here is that, okay, you can use it for bad things, right? We can use it for control, but I wonder if our normal laws of freedom of speech, freedom of movement, freedom of our Privacy Act in general, doesn't that apply? Do you need, or maybe
you mean that you need a specific law just for a time? Because the intention, if it's bad, it should already be regulated. And I kind of agree with that, but it could be loopholes that we're not thinking about here.
Maybe it's a way to, because I think the AI Regulation Act has a secondary purpose here, and that is in a way educating us on potentially. Think carefully when you go into this minefield of intention. You weren't planning on it, so by putting a light on this. You are maybe educating us, but in practice, I think it's covered by the laws. The fundamental
and maybe
laws.
If you, as we said before, if you put a law on explainability and transparency, then the intention would be abundantly clear anyway. If you need to explain even it's how you got there.
The current trial with Theodor Engström, if you heard about it, and the Visby case.
Yeah, he looks really scary, by the way.
He made his intentions, as you say, very clear. I came there to commit a crime, to kill 3 people, I think he listed, Annie Lööf, etc. And that type of intention should not be allowed, right? And that should be regulated, of course. Yeah. Right.
Anyway, but let's do a segue here, because the segue moves into effective communication and how important it is that we learn how to communicate so it's received, explainable for human to take it on. Okay, we might say explainable AI, but we might need to communicate it in such a way that we can take it on. Like a doctor needs to explain to us when we have a diagnosis, he can't use the Latin words. He needs to explain what type of sickness I have and what I should do about it. Like that mindset. I think now we're moving into how important communication is to this whole story around AI, to make it used, to make it trusted, to make it credible, to make it marketable, to make it scalable. So what is then good communication in relation to AI?
I mean, what I've learned here as well, that when you use AI for something, it automatically creates a bit of, what is it? Is it good? What is it going to do? Lots of questions coming up just because it's the name AI in the solution. So I think around trust and credibility, you need to be able to explain the performance of your solution. So what performance does the AI have?
And what do you mean with performance?
Oh, it could be depending on what I mean, in our terms, it's performance in terms of energy savings, right? We need to be very, very transparent about this is what it saves, if it's anything. And this is what you save, and this is what you save in energy, in carbon footprint, and in money, for example. That is an easy way for the customer to be able to compare this to other types of solutions.
So if I articulate it with my words, you need to be able to articulate the usefulness of the AI. What was it useful for, and to what degree is this useful?
Yeah, or value. I'm back to value. I like value. Because in any product development, you need to be super clear on why are we doing this? What is the value? What is the problem that I'm solving with this? But then also, is it worth solving?
Sorry, can I interrupt with a question here? The time is flying away here, and it's over 7 o'clock. Did you have a time to meet, by the way, when you have to leave?
No, I don't have it. No more. I'm going to jump on my e-moped.
So, okay, you so we can continue for some time.
Elin, you realize 2 hours? Oh, no, it can't be
I did say that when I got here.
Yeah.
Are we going to talk for 2 hours? Really?
And we haven't even started. I have so many questions.
Yeah, with so much left.
So much fun, Elin.
Okay, so speaking about good communication about AI, as you say, it's a term that is a bit contentious, or it's a bit hyped, and it has both positive and negative connotations to it. And I'm eager to give I shouldn't do this long anecdote about Uber or something, but there are many examples where people have said wrong things about how they are proud about using data or AI, and it turned out to be really bad. But what do you think is, for Myrspoven, etc., that are using AI, do you have any good advice for how do you speak about AI without making people feel scared about it, but rather feel excited about it?
Yes. So the ones who could feel scared about it is of course the energy technicians, the ones who are doing this already today manually. Yes. And there we try and educate in terms of the role that they still would have. The AI can give you a short list. You have 20 buildings, and as a person, you're responsible for these 20 buildings, running them. The AI can tell you which 3 buildings are your problem ones that needs manual attention. So the AI can help you prioritize your work to make you more efficient.
Right.
So you need to translate it to what it is. It's not taking over your job. It's helping you with the prioritization in terms of what
you will be empowered by having an AI as a companion in some way. Right?
So that's one type of communication. But you also make sure that we need to be where they are today. In the dashboards where they're working, we need to know what kind of problems they are solving day to day to be able to also, and I think our AI suggestions and also our AI, transparency around this is the output, this is the predictions that we will do. So it's not this secret. We don't know what the AI is going to do. And again, the algorithm has been there for several years now. But this is where we are developing right now. So this is where we've realized that, okay, we need to be better at showing what the AI is doing. And that is to convince these people that are doubting the AI and the functionality of it.
Let me see if I can sort of bring this down and package this in a way. Because what we're saying is we need to be good at communicating value. Okay, this is to me still fluff when we say it like that, because we're the best. We need you get customer loyalty with AI. Go for us. No, what you are talking about now, we need to be able to explain the value very, very concretely in relation to the whatever user persona, whatever who is going to use this, and then we need to be able to communicate in such a way so it fits with their workflow, so it actually makes sense to them. So so good communication here is value, yes, but it's not the fluffy level of value we're talking about. It's quite concrete, down to earth in relation to usefulness for someone, and then matching in what is useful communication at the time. How should this information look like and pop to be useful in their daily work experience?
Yes.
So and now we're getting to good communication.
Yeah, exactly. And good communication to one persona is not the same, because we don't only have energy technicians. Exactly. Then we have sustainability, heads of sustainability companies. We have CEOs who are interested in the savings, right? Yeah. And the head of sustainability, well, he or she wants to know what can I say that we're saving? How many tons of carbon dioxide? I mean, what is it doing? And what can we write about what we're doing and the great things. So
good communication has also to do with user persona or matching the communication to the receivers.
Yeah, but there are different values. I mean, there are some values to the energy technician, and then there's another value for head of sustainability, and there's a third value to management of some sort. So that, of course, is very important that we do that. But we're talking now to the people actually trying or actually using the product to convince them. But then you have all the other ones. You have all the other ones doing things in a different manner today. There you also have to be super clear in very simple communication. Why do we use AI for this? And then I think we're back at what we said before, the number of parameters that the AI can comprehend, whereas a human. And then you have to have, I think, the correlation to a human. If we would do this manually, then a human would, make adjustments maybe once a month. And we would do it probably when someone calls in and says it's too cold in our building or it's too hot in our building. And then they would, lower the heat for the whole building. Whereas, an AI would handle that complaint in a very, very different manner. So I think that already on that level, we need to be super simple in how we communicate what it does and why a person couldn't handle that many parameters, because it's also something you can just say. You need to be super clever in how you articulate that's where we should use the computer. But then also never forget what the addition of the two together, the person plus the AI, would make. 1 + 1 is 3.
Yes.
So connected to this, but the potential different question is also, I think, a question that you have been talking about before, Elin, which is AI potentially can be replacing humans. We said these terms many times, but then it's coming a question here. And it may, in other ways, be augmenting humans. What is your thinking here? And now taking a more philosophical 5+ year thinking ahead, or 10 years ahead, do you think jobs will be removed or added with the addition of AI coming into our society?
So I think definitely that jobs will be removed. I mean, I'm saying now that the technicians definitely still have, their job, and they can still add a lot, because that is the truth. I mean, again, a person working together with our system is better. I'm not sure that's the case in 5 years. I don't know. It is right now. But then you also see, I mean, in different fields, I think I actually gave this example in one of my speeches around Goldman Sachs, I think it was, having traders. Having however many hundreds of traders, and now they have 2, and the rest is done by computers.
I think it has like hundreds at least of traders.
The percentage difference is mind-blowing anyway. Because trading is something that is a lot. It can be done by a computer. But then I have the other example of a hotel that wanted to, I mean, just checking people is just a...
Checking in people.
Yeah, exactly. Manual thing.
Not checking
people. No, checking in people into the hotel. That is, it's a repetitive task that, of course, a computer could do. And this hotel, they replaced the hotel receptionist with a computer where you're just blipping, checking in. And they got loads and loads of complaints because there was all these travelers that really wanted to have a chat with someone when they're tired coming from the airport, and they just, they missed the human touch. So I think that in some professions, AI and robots and will definitely have a big place. But I hope that, for example, you can have robots doing all the repetitive tasks in elderly care, but the people will have the conversations.
Right.
So that there will be the same number of jobs out, but they will be different. Of course, we will have more data scientists and that sort of thing. I do understand that we will have a massive, increase in that type of work, but also service people. I mean, we are still very much humans. We like human interaction.
People and nurses can actually focus more on the human connection rather than writing horrible administrative forms on the computer.
And how much of rehab is actually accelerated by the human touch and what you do and how you get help by another human, and how much work is actually stupid that we are not allowing ourselves to spend more time with the patients. And what would happen if we could spend more time with patients?
Yeah, I mean, I do think that's where we need to improve lots in terms of doing the right things. The humans, we shouldn't be replaced. I don't think that we will in certain tasks, but there will always be tasks for humans.
And it's also the simple fact when you start imagining, if you can go down to very basic, simple thing. Let's talk about the company reporting in a large organization. Is it really feasible that I have humans sitting, moving data for a periodical reporting from one system into another? So we don't need to be super fancy, but just to build good, sharp data pipelines and good, sharp, more automated data provisioning, we will still need a team that works on this. But here now we need to design the pipelines, we need to monitor the pipelines, we need to work with the quality analysis, and we want to now work much more with analyzing, getting the insight of our performances. So instead of having all the focus on creating the report or publishing the report, we spend our brain on doing smarter things, and we spend our brain on setting things up and monitoring. So I
and improving efficiency
and that
that.
So of course, one of the tasks will go away. And that task go away means the role goes away. No, the role shifts. And of course, maybe now it's interesting. We need to now shift with the role. We need to learn new capabilities and competencies. But for the ones eager to innovate themselves, there's so much work.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think, we're at a stage now where we're looking at, all these processes that we're doing and manual tasks, because in the beginning, you shouldn't automate them. Not until you know that they're worth automating.
Yeah.
So not everything should be automated, because some things you will realize we won't do this again because this was the wrong thing to do. Or, is this really scalable? Is this really what we're going to do? You always try with manual tasks, and that's absolutely fine. But you get to a point where it shouldn't be manual anymore because it's not efficient that way. And then you need to switch. And of course, you need people then doing different things. People who maybe were supporting customers with things that the customers can support themselves with. Well, that means that person will have to do other things, maybe improving the processes behind the scenes. Definitely other types of roles, and it might be even different people doing them, that we need a shift in competence. That I don't see that at all being impossible. So we will need...
sorry.
And then we will need different types of people, maybe.
You think the effect AI will have on the job market will be, at least short-term, positive in terms of people can focus more on fun tasks and less on boring tasks?
I believe so, yes. In the short term, I think that's what it is, because I think also the credibility in the AI, we will be cautious when even if we apply an AI solution, we will have the people still there to monitor and make sure to catch if it doesn't work. Or
what happens if Elon Musk is right and he makes a quote saying the future, and now it's like 30, 20 years ahead, the future will be a place where we will have abundance of everything. Abundance in terms of roof on top of our head, abundance in terms of energy, abundance in terms of food. And that is not really what we don't even have to work if we don't want to. We can choose to just lay on our sofa and play video games all day, and we will still survive. If that were the case, that we will have a future of abundance in that term, for one, do you believe that will be the case, that in 20 years that will be this kind of situation where people can choose to do nothing if they want to? Or
we have people choosing to do nothing today, so I guess, yes, there will be some of those. But look at the world today. We're very, very segregated in terms of, we still have large, areas in the world living in poverty, and we have very, vital things, not clean water not being provided to people. So in 20 years, no, I do not believe that. And I'm not sure that I ever believe it, if I'm honest.
You don't believe that there will be a place of abundance in general, or?
No, does it mean then in the kind of in the
global sense, or
in the developed world, or does it mean globally?
I think globally, if you think that.
Yeah.
What about 50 years then?
We people, we like to evolve. We're curious. We want to do new things.
But you can still be an artist. You can be a painter or a music creator or a
But then maybe we want
singer,
to. Maybe we want to live on the moon then, and then that's not possible. So then we focus on being able to do that. Even if everybody could live on Earth with roof over their head and food for the day.
I get what you're saying. People always have a curiosity and strive for the next thing. In this way, it will create jobs for us to reach the next thing.
I think we need to work.
It's inherent in our DNA.
I think
isn't that a different question? I mean, one question is really, will we have such a high level of civilization, we call it that we will have the ability to just do nothing if we choose to? Then it's a different question is, will people stop working? I don't think so. I mean, even if I don't think any of us really had to work if we really wanted to.
No, well.
Even today, right?
I think that then the must, the must work. Why do we, what is the definition of not having to work? Because if the human is striving for wanting to achieve something that's of importance, not just being an artist, then they will not think that they have the right to just lay on the sofa and play video games. They will have a drive to do something else. They won't be satisfied with whatever is you will survive. Because to be honest, we all live in abundance today in many ways.
Yes.
So I do. I mean,
if you take it to the extreme, we have welfare systems that you could unfortunately you could lie on the sofa all day and still have a roof over your head in some respects. I find the problem with that kind of this is philosophical now, but the problem I have with this question is that I think the core question is not so much if that will happen. I think the real realization is that the human drive will make us work to get to the next thing. The human, if I flip it, how many humans are content?
I was just going to use that word.
No, so
because I think it's about that, being content.
And there's very few people are content. Has it got to do with money? No. Has it got to do with relationships? No. Has it got to do with So you find once in a while people that I realize, that's a quite content person. Damn it, I wish I could have more of that. But I think that's a personality trait, and I think there are too many humans who are fundamentally not wired to be content. So there will be a drive, and the drive will take us to the next step, and then we need to work to get to the next step. I think it's a human.
I think it's some sort of a cycle, and I think that's not got to do with technology or anything like that. I think it's more about how we work,
how we are wired.
Yeah,
still, but if we think that AI, let's say that we will have more or less free energy for everyone, and
which is what I mean. 3 years ago, we did not think about energy cost.
Yes,
but yeah. So that's not that far away.
Let's say that fusion becomes a reality.
Yep.
And we can basically produce energy from water for free and have more energy that we ever can make use of. What type of effect will that have on our society?
I can answer. We will simply move the goalposts. There will be something else we are not content with that we will drive for. What is it? I don't know. But I think as long as there is, the human psyche seems to have some sort of drive, and the human psyche seems to have some few people who can be content, and maybe that will be more people in percentage than today. But there will be someone, when you have all that you think is all you need to be happy, that will then move the goalposts for the next thing that they strive for. I don't know what that is. We move to Mars. Mars seems boring. I want to go to another galaxy.
Yeah, agreed. I think we are in consensus here, boringly enough.
No, but I think that's how we have evolved.
Yeah. Perhaps one of the more final and easy to answer questions. Do you believe AI is sentient or will be sentient in coming few years?
I think it is.
Oh, that was surprising. What do you mean?
No. Okay.
So,
all right, let
me give you a background then. So there was a big thing with the Blake Lemoine person, the Google engineer, that spoke about the system called Lambda, and that's a chatbot that you can ask questions and it can communicate with you And it sounds, if you just look at the answer it provides, like it's more or less a human that can reason in some ways. And it can ask questions. What are you afraid of? I'm afraid about being shut down.
I know.
You heard about it?
Yeah.
So in that way, it looked like it was sentient. Then the question is if it is or was. So given that, perhaps we don't have it yet in at least not.
I'm interested in Elin's philosophizing on because you start you said yes.
Yeah, but I'm talking about in terms of what computers I talk to every day. I mean, I have actually both Alexas and Google Homes in my home, and we usually have fun with asking different questions. And then we compare the two and the answers, and it's fun.
Yes.
And of course, sometimes you can feel like, okay, that's a good answer. That's an answer that a human could potentially. I mean, that's okay. That's not bad. And sometimes it goes horribly wrong. So of course not now. I mean, is that the goal? Is my question. Is that where we should go?
That's a very good question, and I think I can understand or hint where you're going with that. And I very much agree that AI should not follow.
We shouldn't replace.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, AI should be good what it's good for, and not what humans are good for.
Because sometimes I do feel that we're already there, or that we could be there in some respects. But then again, I think we've lost it because. That shouldn't be what we're thriving for.
We're asking the wrong question.
Yes, because again, we are good at other things. Yes. If we can have a computer sounding and feeling like a human, okay, but that can probably have some, I mean, again, you can have that talking to an elderly person in their home to make it feel more safe, potentially, and secure and happy.
Yeah. But on the other hand, the AI can be so much better than the human brain on certain very specific tasks.
Yes.
That is super intelligent already today in relation to
and
how we tackle.
And that's where I think that is the big application for where we should use it. I also see where, I hate people dying alone. Maybe there is a use for these kind of, close to sentient or.
Or another example that I found interesting was that someone lost a loved one. Someone passed away. It could be their partner, husband and wife. And they simply feel a great loss. And someone, there is these companies that provide a system that basically take the voice of the person. They learn a language model for what they have said. So you can talk to it. And it answers back in the same voice and tone and with the same type of answer as the partner did. It's not, of course, a perfect replica in any way, but at least that for them it was a great relief to at least have some kind of...
Brings comfort.
Yeah, even though they know this is, of course, a replica of my lost one, it still was of great value for them to have more than just pictures and videos. I guess it's another way of...
this is weird to me. I mean, because, again, having a computer talking like a human is one thing and feeling like a human. But a human that, I think that's a limit for me.
But it's okay with pictures, I guess, right?
Yeah.
And it's okay with videos.
But the videos are real. I mean, they are of that person then, right?
Real. I mean, it's virtual. I mean, it's
of course it's no. But it is still,
And a video game is the next extension of a video that is interactive in that way. So if you just add interactivity to a video, it becomes a game. And then if you add just
I think we're into very dangerous territory. I think this is kind of scary to think about. Okay. Just I don't know, because if you lose someone, and yes, of course, you look at pictures of that person, and you even videos, of course you do.
But this is you're looking back.
You look at history and memories that have actually happened.
Yes.
Because if you, I don't know, I would feel that if I had that opportunity, I would try and bring them back, and maybe then not move past the fact and not move forward.
You're highlighting now that basically something has happened, and this is fact of life. People dies, and we need to get on with our lives. And here we are now. We're using tech that comfort us, but in some ways it's also maybe potentially stopping us from moving on.
Very personal opinion here. I have no kind of scientific proof, but I would probably not want that. I say now, if I am in that situation, I would probably say yes to that. But looking at memories, I think is very different to playing a video game with someone that is not there anymore.
No, I agree with you. The one thing is memory. And we have now found a way to relive a memory. And now we are moving forward.
Yeah. I mean, in terms of this, going into augmented realities and that sort of thing, I held a keynote virtually during the pandemic where it was actually on one of these virtual platforms. So I had my avatar.
Have you done one of them?
Yeah.
Have you done with the Oculus setup VR?
No, this was kind of basic. The platform was kind of basic, but you could go into different scenes, and then I had to walk up with my little avatar from sitting in the audience, walk up onto the stage and like wave. And
how was that?
But this wasn't good enough for it to add. This was more like a like gamification of giving a speech, and I think they could see me as well. I think, if I remember correctly now. Because otherwise they can't see me talking. They see my avatar and moving the lips of the avatar. But
with poor graphics.
Yeah, a little bit like that. But I mean, I like the idea though, because there it is. I'm not there. So, holograms in the future, whatever it's going to be, you can all of a sudden you can be there, but you're not. You could sit somewhere else, and we would sit like this and talk because that's what we talked about beforehand as well.
Yes.
The physical, it does give something. It gives energy to not have you on a screen, but to have you here. We can feed off each other.
And what if we reformulate the question a bit? And I know some people that have been really, helped with having, a parent lost, and they have this person to speak to, and for them at least was a great comfort. There is another person, is the founder of NVIDIA, the company that provides and builds, all of the AI chips, more or less. They have a monopoly, more or less, about AI chips today.
AMD wouldn't say so, but...
No, but to a large extent at least, that they have the majority of the market cap. Jensen Wang, or whatever his name is. Yeah. He has built an avatar, of course, that looks like him. He has a language model that is trained on what he usually speaks about and how he answers questions. So you can think of it like an extended chatbot that not only can answer questions, but you can actually see his avatar face and body, and you can ask it questions, and it will in real time answer in a way that he would. So then, he basically has a replica of himself that you can interact with. Would you consider that to be scary?
No.
No? Why? What's the difference?
The other one is dead.
That's a small difference, yes. But is it a big difference, really?
No, but I think that would be more of it would be so super clear that you're still talking to a computer.
But that's the case in the other.
Yes, of course it is. Yeah, no, of course it is. But I think it's the emotional attachment to someone where I can.
Yeah.
Good point. I think it's the ethical. Is this right to do this? I do. Yeah, I think it's the kind of ethical questions around do we do that or not to someone who's dead. I mean, in this instance, he has chosen to create his own avatar, and as long as he makes it very clear to the audience that this is actually my avatar and you're not talking to me, I don't see a problem or anything with that. Emotionally, I don't react to that. But if you talk about someone who's actually died. That doesn't sit right with me.
Tough questions, for sure. Yeah.
I think we are running way over time. So I think we are wrapping up here. Very interesting also to get a couple of philosophical questions. But with this one, I want to take the last couple of questions. First, I would like you to help us. Can we find any good T-shirt quotes? Can we sort of nail down some things we learned or talked about today? I have one. Productize with a big exclamation mark. Productize.
I knew he was gonna go after that because the goosebumps came.
But I mean, so imagine this. What can we? Sometimes you talk, and then you can distill it down to principle or like this is good.
You don't believe it until you explain it.
Don't believe it till you explain it. I like that one. Don't believe it until you see it and then flip it to explain it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a lot about that. The content of the discussion, and I would say the experience I have from having worked in 2 different companies, completely different sectors, but both with AI solution as a core, it's very, very true.
And it's an essence of communication in some way. If you want to be efficient at communicating something, you have to explain it so people understand.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they won't believe it.
No, exactly.
Won't believe it until you explain it.
Awesome.
That's an awesome quote. We stop here. Okay. What's next? What's up next? Something exciting, fun for, even now, Christmas or after that? Family or work-wise?
Well, yeah, I have my husband turning 50 next week.
Ooh.
And I'm a little bit behind on the planning. So I'm not sure that's a good thing. No, I mean, there's lots of fun things, both actually personal and I mean, the journey with Myrspoven is very, very exciting. And it's not like it's without hurdles. There are loads and loads of challenges, and that's what I like. So, the path is not clear. It's definitely windy, but it's really fun. And privately, I think actually I'm going to get to go on the holiday of a lifetime when we celebrate that my husband is turning 50 and we're going to the Maldives.
Oh, nice. Super nice. Do you know where? North,
no.
south, middle?
What's the most common?
I guess central. That's the airport, Central Atoll.
Okay, well, I know we're going to take one of those planes that have to land on water.
And then you're going a little bit further.
Oh, cool.
Maybe
cool.
I
mean, again, he has done the booking. I have no clue. But, me and the kids, we're all very excited.
Super excited. Okay, cool. Now, last question. Do you have any suggestions for guests for the pod that you would like to listen to?
So I mean, two, I think. I think my old boss actually at Telia, Christopher Ågren, who was Mr. Data Insights, and Mr. Crowd Insights. He was at I was only the B team, so when he was ill, I could do the TV stuff. Otherwise, it was him. So he has got a lot of interesting, he's got a lot of insights around data, and he's also very into the science part of the medicine and the biotechnology and that sort of thing. So he would be interesting to listen to, definitely. And then I have some interesting connections at Google now, and I think that they also are doing quite a lot of cool stuff within AI right now.
For the area.
Yeah, Google Cloud especially, how they are trying to make AI more general and more accessible. The AI tools that they're providing, it's quite a lot of cool stuff that's coming out of that area. So
Vertex AI, perhaps
that could be interesting to listen to.
And is anyone in particular you think is excellent to explain and communicate that you have met? Any one person that you?
I don't actually. I can't remember the name. Sorry.
That's okay.
We just get Jeff Dean on the show.
Yeah. Absolutely, go for that.
No problem.
I will give you a name. I promise. I will give you a name. It's in my inbox.
Yeah. Jeff Dean or Jeffrey Hinton or something. We'll go.
And Mr. I mean, why don't we invite Mr. Musk here as well, and he can talk about his abundance theory, and then you can ask him for real.
Mr. Musk. Like
Elin, fantastic. Yes, 2 hours and a bit.
That's crazy.
Crazy, isn't it? And thank you so much for having this time with us, and it was so much interesting and fun.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been an awesome chat to you two guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.